Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Comic Boom Comic Source collaboration. It's a DC Spotlight for the week of January 14th, 2026, second week of the new year. Little bit of a smaller week this week, which I'm always fine with. Only 8 books to chat about. Overall, I thought it was a pretty strong week. I mean, even the book that I have in last, I enjoyed. So yeah, it was pretty
Yeah,
great week overall.
yeah, I agree
What
with
do you
you.
think, Rob?
It was pretty good. I enjoyed it. Like say uh, yeah, it was easy. I still I found it relatively easy to rank my top five, particularly my top two. But they're all decent. So it was another enjoyable week reading DC Comics.
Yeah, my pick of the week was easy. Yeah, no doubt. I After that, like between two and three, like I kind of struggled for various reasons.
Hmm.
Um, on what because there were reasons I wanted to rank things lower, but then reasons I felt like it should be ranked higher, and that sort of thing. So in
Yeah.
terms of rankings, it's kind of an interesting week. So all right, well let's go ahead and dive in. Kicking it off with C.O.R.T. Children of the Round Table, issue number 5 from writer Tom Taylor. Art by Danielle Di Niculo, colors by Rain Barreto, letters by Wes Abbott. Uh, so, for anybody that's been reading this, I'm sure they've really been enjoying these cliffhangers that Tom Taylor has been giving us at the end. Last issue, we found out that Modred was president of the United States, or, has possessed the guy that's president of the United States. And now in this one, we find out that Felicity, one of the children of the Round Table, one of the eponymous court children, um, she's the daughter, because when she confronts him, in the final panel, she says, "Hi, Dad," which there was no clue up to this point. At least not. I debated going back. If I would have had time, maybe I would have flipped back to the previous issues to see if there was any indication that this was the case. So anyway, it is aimed at younger readers, and I'm not the biggest fan of Daniel Niculo's art style. It's very anime or manga influenced, which is not my thing. And for those reasons, I ranked this just outside my top five. I ranked it at number 6, because also there hasn't been a ton of action in the last couple of issues either. Um, but I have a feeling this is going to sneak into my top 5 soon, based on the strength of the writing. But again, I feel like it's aimed at younger readers, and it might be a case where once this hits the trade, that it kind of takes off for younger readers. Because I could definitely see that being the case. We have been told that it's in mainstream DC continuity. Whether that will matter, whether we'll see these characters show up somewhere else, whether we'll see, Superman or Batman or something crossover with this, remains to be
Yeah.
seen. But we always talk about needing new readers, and this is the kind of book that can pull in younger readers. So, yeah, it's if it was a different artist whose style that I enjoyed a lot more,
Yeah.
I probably would even have this ranked even higher. So,
It's
but
a,
anyway, really solid entry.
Yeah, I didn't really give this much of a review this week, and I probably should because that is a very interesting cliffhanger. I do note though that it's very interesting because I know right now, and I know we're not going to talk politics. Don't worry, but it is interesting given the political turmoil in the U.S. and a particular president that Tom Taylor. This is an interesting sort of plot point for young readers to have. Your dad's president, but he's a secret villain, and I'm wondering if the political turmoil in the U.S. might gear some kids toward this, or if this is, because I think it's an interesting plot point. I like it. I can entertain all kind of fanciful hypotheticals. I would love it if a certain Ivana Trump, wielded a sword and approached her father in the White House. But that's me reading too much into things. But
Yeah, well, she'd be a villain too. It would have to be like a long lost child.
yeah, but
But yeah, I mean, when it was revealed that Mordred was president, I mean, that's so on the nose. And we know, I mean, Tom Taylor's not shy about his politics. He's
yeah,
not from the U.S. If you're not aware, everybody, he's Australian.
Australian. Yeah,
Um, but yeah, I mean, the big bad of this book being president of the United States. I mean, that's so on the nose,
yeah,
right? So,
yeah,
there may be a portion of the audience out there who this, that's a big faux pas, a big turnoff. But I
yeah.
sort
That's
of feel
right.
like those are not the kind of people that are reading Taylor's work anyway,
Yeah, that's right.
unless they're hate reading it, which there are people that do that. Like there
Yeah.
were people that bought his Nightwing book month in and month out just so they could crap on it, which I never understand. You're going to spend $5-6 on a book just that you don't like.
Hmm.
It doesn't matter to Tom Taylor in terms of you're helping you're helping his sales numbers. Like he's probably blocked you or muted you anyway if you're out there complaining about it. So anyway, let's move on to a book. Yeah, I said that was I ranked it 6, just out of my top 5. So anyway, moving on to a book that is in both our top 5. Aquaman 13 from writer Jeremy Adams. Daniel Bayliss handles the art in this particular issue. Rex Locus on colors. Dave Sharp on letters. Now I'll get kind of I don't want to say it's a negative, a little bit of a nitpick out of the way here. I mean, this is Aquaman number 13, DCKO tie-in. But Aquaman shows up for maybe a couple pages
Yeah.
here, where one page, maybe
Yeah,
2 pages.
there's 2 pages. It just
Yeah,
references him in the DCKO tournament with Hawkman.
yeah. The,
Or
the issue 3, which we're going to talk about in this episode as well.
yeah,
So for me, that is a little bit of a nitpick. The fact that it's Aquaman and what Jeremy Adams has been doing with Aquaman is awesome, but we don't get any Aquaman in this issue. And it's not the first time that an event has I don't want to say derailed, but Jeremy has had to deal with an event in the midst of trying to tell the story that he's telling. And I think he's doing a fantastic job, as well as can be expected.
yeah.
But like selfishly, I just want the story of Aquaman and how powerful he's becoming. Avatar, the Blue, and whatever. Now, him not showing up in this issue because he's actually taking part in the tournament, it's understandable. And Jeremy does take advantage of that necessary sort of story structure to give the spotlight to some of the other characters, namely Mira. We get a lot of Mira. We get a flashback to see Mira's father and a clue to who Mira's mother is. Now, as far as I know, I can't find or think of any other references in this much detail. I mean, yes, it's been mentioned before that Mira's father was, I don't know if it said that he was king, but definitely that he was royalty.
It,
Um, you
of
know, part
Zabel.
of
Yeah,
Zabel, right?
yeah.
And very little has been shown about her mother. So, I mean, Mira's become a pretty major character. Has always been a major character in kind of Aquaman mythos, but even more elevated in recent years. And so, in terms of canonically, this is a really important story. We're getting hints of Mira's mother and the abilities that she might have. We're seeing, the character that we were told was a grown up Andy, a grown up Andriana, and she's sort of saying the quiet part out loud now. She's looking to be very imperialistic. She's looking to rule the Seven Seas in Aquaman's absence. Could she actually be Mira's mother, like reincarnated or something? Could she be the one that's responsible for Atlantis disappearing? I mean, that's all really, really interesting. So even though we don't get any of Aquaman in this issue to speak of, it still moves the plot forward as well as can be expected. So I thought that was really good. I also thought the art by Daniel Bayliss was solid. John Timms has been doing a fantastic job. Bayliss's style is similar enough to John Timms that I don't think it's going to be a funky transition when it's collected in trade.
Hmm.
So I thought colors are bright. So yeah, a solid book, definitely in my top 5. But man, I'm looking forward to having Aquaman back in his book and seeing him continue to level up. And I'm also going to reference. I'll come back and talk a little bit about Aquaman again when we get to Green Lantern Corps, because that has a connection that you might not necessarily be aware of, or you might not necessarily be thinking of. But I have a feeling that it's gonna tie into this in a way that you might not expect. So anyway, what were your thoughts on Aquaman 13, Rocky?
I enjoyed it, and I like that Andrina is finally coming into her own, because there's always been Andrina. We know she's supposedly the daughter of Mira and Aquaman from the future. She's come to the present, yet she's certainly more imperialistic. She seems to have certain ambitions. It seems to is she a hardcore villain, or is what turned her, what made her that way? I think there's still a lot of questions we have about Andrina. Maybe even is she even really the daughter? Who knows? I mean, there's still a lot more story to tell here. And also, just as a shout out and as perhaps as a compliment to DC, 90% of the time, I don't like when big events take away from a good story that a writer's telling. But I really enjoyed one of the better battles was Aquaman versus Hawkman. And we'll be reviewing DCKO issue 3 this week, where Aquaman calls upon Hawkman again, and we'll get to that. And so we are, for Aquaman lovers, we get the benefit of the continuing story of Mira and Drina, which really needs time to build, because this is the story that's being told in this issue. I think it's important to be told. There's only so much real estate you have. Of course, it would be nice to have more Aquaman, but at the same time, there's lots of Aquaman over in the pages of DCKO this week, people. And so if you love your Aquaman, go pick up DCKO number 3 in conjunction with Aquaman number 13. And I would suggest you're probably not going to miss, you'll still get your Aquaman fix, because there's a lot to love there. So it just goes to show you that, yes, big events can be frustrating, but when they're a lot of fun, and I enjoy DCKO this week. We'll talk about it later when we get to it. But that was a big consolation prize for me, even though Aquaman didn't play a big role in this issue. I quite enjoyed it. And the mystery of Zebel continues. What exactly did Andrina do? What's her ambitions? Why did she feel she had to destroy Zebel? Why did she change? She gave some chemical or some pellets or pills to the Zebelians to turn them into Atlanteans. Why did she do that? What's her agenda? Something's going on here. We don't know what it is. And what is Andrina going to do? Andrina has already acknowledged that Aquaman is uber powerful. She seems to revere her father Aquaman because he's so powerful. I think she's more in love with, or she's more fascinated with her father's power, being in control of the blue. But I don't know if she really appreciates that her father's not going to respect her all that much when he finds out that she has this imperialistic streak. So I'm not really sure what Andrina's end game here is, because unless she's got a power I'm unaware of, I don't see her lasting very long once her father returns. So there's a lot of questions here. When Aquaman returns from the DCKO event, what's going to happen? So I love the characterization, and I love the setup here by Jeremy Adams, even without Hawkman in most of the book. Aquaman, sorry.
Yeah. In my mind, there's no way that's Andrina. It's got to be Mira's mother. We know she has magical abilities, and she's disguising herself, making herself look like what a grown-up Andrina would look like. Because obviously there's going to be a similarity in look there anyway. Andrina's her granddaughter,
and her mother's statue is missing at the end. Mira's mother's,
yeah. So it's got to be, but how it all happened, how it all broke down, remains to be seen. So. All right. Up next, we have Action Comics number 1094 from writer Mark Waid. Fill-in artist Patricio Del Pesce handles the art. Steve Wan's on letters. I didn't particularly care for the art, to be honest. Based on the art that we've had in this book, Skylar Patrick's been doing the majority of it, and her art's so gorgeous. Ryan Sook doing the covers. Del Pesce's style just doesn't really suit this type of book. It's more suited for something like I was going to say like what's happening in the pages of Catwoman, and then I realized, Patricio Del Pesce has done art for Catwoman. It's very, very noir, kind of moody and what have you, and it doesn't really suit the story in my mind. That being said, the story is interesting enough, with Superboy via request by General Lane going to a hostile country to rescue some soldiers who were sent there to extract a scientist who was kidnapped and is forced to build a weapon for them. So I enjoyed it, but again, I think in the hands of a different artist, it would have a different feel, and it would have landed a little bit better. This feels just like such a somber story,
Yeah.
and I don't. And while it's serious subject matter, I don't know that it's the right tone in terms of how the story has been playing out. There is a little subplot at the end um, where Clark is thinking about how lonely he's felt recently, the fact that he can't tell anybody he's Superboy, and he wonders about confiding in his best friend Pete Ross, and then ultimately decides that he doesn't want to burden Pete with that knowledge. Um, but kind of in the final panel, it's kind of foreshadowed that maybe Pete already knows the secret, and he's wondering why Clark's not choosing to share it with him. So look forward to that plot um, kind of unfolding, and also the fallout from this, because it wasn't necessarily the easiest mission for Superboy to go on, and he realizes throughout the course of the mission that this is not something that um, he can sanction. He can't do the bidding of the American military complex. That's just not something that's tenable in the long run. So how that's going to work, and how he's going to get out from under the thumb of General Lane, so to speak, because the whole reason General Lane agreed to, not invade Smallville and kind of be a little bit more hands off was Superboy agreeing to go on these types of missions for him once in a while. And, based on the context of this story and what Superboy is thinking as he narrates the story, it can just never happen again. So what are the consequences going to be the next time General Lane reaches out and says, hey, I have this mission for you. And Superboy says, I'm not going to do it. Especially if it could involve, loss of life and that sort of thing, like what he's going to feel obligated to go and save those lives, but not do it at the direction of the American military. So yeah, really interesting dichotomy. And especially in terms of what Waid is doing, supposedly Action Comics, and we're thinking back to, the early years of Superman, a little bit more innocent time and what have you. I mean, not unlike what Waid has done in the pages of World's Finest. Um, but at the same time, this is like a really complicated issue, and one that's not easily answered. And it's very real world in a way. Like
Yes.
if there was somebody that had superpowers the way that Superboy does in the real world, every nation on Earth would be wanting that person to be on their side, and they would do whatever was in their power to make that happen. And I mean, they'd be kidnapping, relatives and holding them hostage and doing whatever, because it would be a game changer. And so I don't think there's a government on this planet that wouldn't go to any length, including very unscrupulous means, in order to have that advantage over everybody else. So very interesting dichotomy there between kind of the more innocent time of Superman learning to use his powers, while at the same time dealing with a very complex issue.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I thought it was really great. I just wish they'd chosen a different artist to give it a little bit of a different tone. So, what are your thoughts on it, Rocky?
This was in my top five. I really liked it for precisely the reason you stated, and that is I love the sort of moral complexity of it. Because on the one hand, General Lane, and I don't think Superboy was asked to do anything that was against his moral character. Because he was legitimately asked to save lives, and that's what he did. He couldn't save one soldier's life, and it was a very poignant scene. That was his first human corpse he'd ever seen. Very poignant scene, very powerful. And the U.S. Army didn't. Well, I guess you could say that. Sam Lane did say, "Well, we want you to help us out once in a while." But really, if they would have said to Superman, "Look, we got guys that are going to be killed. They're in harm's way. You're our last resort." You get a sense with Superboy's moral fiber, he probably helped them anyway. But so on the one hand, he doesn't want to be beholden to the U.S. government. On the other hand, he can't sit idly by and watch innocent people be killed. So, but yet at the same time, he wants to have his own agency to make his decisions himself. But But is that realistic? Well, that's the question. And we don't need to be given an answer because there really isn't an answer because it's Superboy's going to make that decision as he gets older day by day. I also, what even adds to the story more is the fact that Superboy is still developing his powers. Very interestingly enough, you know, he doesn't have heat vision to melt the guns of the enemy. He's got to use his super speed and invulnerability to protect the soldiers. He develops tinnitus because the enemy develops an ultra high frequency sound as a weapon, and so he hasn't learned to develop or to shield his own ears internally from the ultra high sonics. And just very clever use of Mark Waid just knowing a lot about Superman. So it's just Superboy's powers, and it really works. I actually thought that given the tone, I thought the art reinforced the different tone that the story has. And so for that reason, I enjoyed Patricia Del Pesce's sort of artistic interpretation of things, and I thought it worked. And I think that this was good, you know. These Silver Age stories that are sort of being retold, just these new Silver Age stories being retold, Mark Waid, I think, is doing a great job. And just to state, in case people don't know, I think most people might know, but in case you don't, Pete Ross traditionally, way back in the Silver Age, Pete Ross traditionally has always known, he discovered as a young boy, as Clark Kent's friend, he discovered Clark Kent was Superboy early on, and he never revealed that secret even into adulthood. That he always kept Clark's secret even until they were adults and beyond. And I don't think Clark ever really knew in the pre-crisis continuity. I don't think Pete Ross ever disclosed to even an adult Clark Kent that he knew his secret identity. I don't think so. But people in the chat, if I'm wrong, correct me on that. But anyway, it's just a little bit of information there. I love how Mark Waid ties that in, though, because you can imagine how hard this is for a young Clark Kent developing his powers. This is quite something to go through, you know, especially, you know, because you're all of a sudden he's thrown into war and he's already got a very strong, strict principled moral compass. And all of a sudden you throw war into that. Wow. And so, but I like that Mark Waid is challenging him, and Mark Waid isn't answering these moral questions. He's posing them, and he's wisely letting the reader decide for themselves how they want to interpret it. So it's you're on mute, my friend. Sorry.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see. I mean, I got to imagine that he's going to eventually change his mind, or Pete is going to say something like, I know you're Superboy, or what have you. Because, yeah, it was always, as Clark got a little older, Lana and Pete knew. And so he didn't have that sense of loneliness that he's talking about in this particular issue. I think that was important, that he learned that he could trust some people with the secret. But, I mean, I agree with him. Knowing Superman's secret identity is a heavy burden, no doubt. All right, next book is not in my top 5. It actually came in last for me, but it's Wonder Woman Black and Gold 2026 special. There's 4 stories in here. And again, this is one of those limited color palettes. So, all the art is basically black and white with gold highlights. So the first story, Decent Docent, is from Tom King and Mitch Gerrits, with obviously Mitch doing the art, lettered by Clayton Cowles. It says written and illustrated by Mitch as well. Story, so I guess plot by Tom and Mitch. And then Mitch wrote it and drew it. Last Flight, written by Alyssa Wong, art by Karen S. Darbide, and Steve Wands on letters. And then The Truth Unreal, written by Steve Orlando, Rossi Gifford on art, lettered by Pat Brosso. And then finally, Peach Thief, written by Jordi Belair, art by Paulina Ganeshow, colors by Kendall Good, and lettered by Becca Carey. So Last Flight is probably the one that's probably the most relevant, I would say, to what's happening in the pages of Wonder Woman right now, in terms of, Steve Trevor trying to find his way back to the land of the living. So that's probably the one, if you're going to pick this up, that you want to be sure to, or if you're thinking, if you really love like the Tom King, current Wonder Woman run, Steve Trevor, what have you, you're going to want to pay attention to that. Other than that, I mean, Xanthi shows up as a guest star in that.
What's her name again? Xanthi. What's her superhero name?
Xanthi. I couldn't tell you.
I can't. We read the whole series and we can't.
I don't.
and they
I
don't
mean,
even.
it's Spirit World was the name
Spirit
of the.
World, that's what it was.
Yeah,
Sorry, that's what
yeah,
I
but
was
I mean,
wondering.
that's not her superhero. I mean,
Yeah,
she just. I don't think she has a superhero name. I think it's
that's
just
right. Okay.
Xanthi Zhao. Um, but yeah, I mean, everybody's always calls her Xanthi. So, um, and the other story that I'll mention is the last story very much is that whole young Diana. It's written by the same person and same creative team, what have you. So if you liked those young Diana backups in the pages of Wonder Woman, I think that was during the Clunrad era. You'll definitely want to pick that up. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, these were okay for what they were. The art in the first story by Mitch, I mean, it looks amazing. Mitch's art looks so amazing with the black and the white and the gold. Like I was just blown away.
Yeah.
But yeah, just this is I didn't feel like anything here was really memorable. So
Yeah. I,
any
I
thought?
well, I just want to say I actually think that I was really I I was actually most what made me think and I thought was kind of depressing in a good way. Steve Orlando's story, the truth unreal. I love the fact that what's tragic about it is that essentially there's this would-be messiah who's talking to his people. He's getting them all riled up to control them for obviously warlike purposes, and basically Wonder Woman uses her golden perfect lasso to sort of bring him into a sort of like a mental chamber where forcing him to confront the truth. And she discovers that he actually believes in the lies that he tells. So his truth is a lie. And that's what's so terrible about it. And I'm sorry, I hate to bring it up again, but it feels so timely about a certain president and what's so tragic, and it feels this way of what America's going through right now. And that is that even when the lie is determined, even when the people, even when he comes out of it, and he tells his own people, I've been lying to you. His own people don't believe him. They think Wonder Woman is maybe controlling or manipulating him. So even the magic lasso, getting the tyrant to admit he's a liar to his own people, the people are so indoctrinated in the lie they don't believe him. And doesn't that sound familiar? And you got to wonder if Trump tomorrow come. I mean, I don't know, short of if Trump came out tomorrow and said, I'm in the Epstein files, I admit it, I did this, there would be some people who still don't believe him. I'm
They
sorry.
wouldn't care.
They wouldn't care.
I mean,
But
yeah.
that's what I find so tragic about it, and that's what I found powerful about the story. And the story, it's called The Truth Unreal. It's so perfectly named. And sadly, Wonder Woman, and it's at the end of the story, she has to sit there on a rock and let the people, the very last panel, she's letting all the people touch the lasso so that at least they can know the truth. And what I look at that image and I get depressed because I'm thinking to myself, well, guess what? We don't have a magic lasso that we can wrap around the world and have everybody walk up and touch it and say, oh yeah, okay, no, thank you. Thank you for the truth. So, it's just a tragic dichotomy between the superhero world, which is of course fantasy, and our real world where we don't have the benefit of the golden perfect. But so that's the story that had the most impact on me here. And kudos to Steve Orlando for doing that. And I thought the art by Rossi Gifford was pretty good as well.
Yeah, I mean, you're 100%, on the nose. Starting in 2020, all of a sudden, like, I never thought in my lifetime that truth would become subjective. I mean, truth is truth. I mean, I'm a very logical person. I have great respect for logic and the scientific method and what have you. And the fact that, the truth is subjective now it's amazing to me.
It's
Like,
tragic.
yeah, it's quite sad. All right, up next, another book that's I don't think in either of our top five. Supergirl #9, Resolutions from Sophie Campbell. This is again a case where Sophie is not doing the art, but Joe Quinones is the artist on this. And if Sophie's not going to do the art, I'm all for Joe Quinones doing the art because his style is very very
It's really
similar
good.
to Sophie Campbell. So it's the closest we've had to Sophie Campbell art. Anyway, and Joe does his own colors as well. So Becca Carey is on the letters here. And basically this is kind of a New Year's Eve party. And that's what, the name Resolutions and what have you. So the kind of the group of girls that we have been getting to know are invited to a New Year's Eve party, and it's what did they call it? I can't remember no beer. That's right,
Yeah.
no beer. New Year party.
Yeah.
Um, and it's funny. Lena's the one that's like, wait, no beer, and she's not. She's the only one that's not even 21. So it's kind of funny. Because they even call her out of it. They're like, "What do you care? You're not even supposed to be drinking." And obviously, Lesla doesn't know, what booze is, and so she expresses some curiosity about it, and Lena decides that she's going to um, do something so that Lesla can kind of experience what it's like to be drunk, basically. Um, so between Luna and Kara and Lesla and Lena, they go to this party, and basically uh, Lena spikes the punch, if you will, and Lesla starts acting out, showing off her powers, what have you, and Supergirl takes a drink of it as well, which wasn't what Lena necessarily had hoped would happen, or planned to happen. And so, yeah, these hijinks ensue. And to her credit, Lena tries to apologize, and she realizes that she made a big mistake. But Supergirl's not having it. Um, and on top of that, the fallout from this is that Supergirl is wondering if she's the right person to mentor Lesla. On top of which, right from the very first page, Lesla's talking about the fact that she feels like she's shrinking. And so when Supergirl reaches out to the Science Council of Kandor, they're like, "Yeah, we realize this. There's a biological inevitability of this for Kandorians of Lesla's age." And Supergirl's like, "What? Like, what? How could you not have told me? And what's going on?" And they're like, "Yeah, basically, um, her body's going to lose molecular cohesion if she doesn't return. So, if the rehabilitation experiment's over, you need to bring her back here and what have you." So it's very tragic in a lot of ways, because Lesla feels like she let Supergirl down with the way that she acted out. But it wasn't really her fault because, it was Lena that spiked it. But Lena feels guilty. So at the end of the day, what I felt like reading this book, this particular issue, was just how much kind of soap opera, young girl, teenage angst there was in this particular issue.
Yeah, very much so.
And,
Yeah.
and this is the first issue of this series where I felt like, maybe this series is not for me. Not that it's bad, not
Mm.
that it's bad, but I'm not the target audience for shows like, and I don't even know, I can't even name any modern shows
Yeah.
that but like One Tree Hill or the OC
Oh,
or
Gilmore
90
Girls.
Gilmore Girls 90210, those kind of angst,
Yeah.
Gossip Girl.
Sure. Yeah.
I don't know what the modern equivalent of those is. I don't watch much television. But yeah, those soap opera-y, you're cheating on me with this other girl, or my boyfriend's cheating on me with my best friend, blah blah blah, that kind of stuff. It just doesn't interest me. It just doesn't. It's valid storytelling, it's drama, and it's character interaction or what have you. It's just not the kind that I prefer to read. And so again, I haven't felt up to this point that this book hasn't been for me until we got to this issue. Now, it could just be that's just going to be this story arc, and then we're going to pivot to something that's a little more traditionally superheroic or what have you. Because I have been enjoying Supergirl, and the art is great, and the character dialogue and what have you is still good. The pacing's still good. Sophie Campbell's still talented. So again, it's not a bad book, but if you like that kind of gossipy soap opera angsty kind of stuff, man, you definitely should be picking this up, because it really just all of a sudden, and it's not like we haven't had a little bit of that as an aspect of the story that Sophie Campbell's been telling, but in this issue it all gets dialed up to 11. So if that's your jam, definitely be sure that you don't miss this issue. So
Yeah.
Anyway, I know I talked a little bit more about it than I would normally for a book that's not on my top 5, but wanted to explain because it's important, I think, to give people an idea of where this book is headed, at least for this story arc.
I actually, it's funny. I echo your sentiments, but I err on the side of this is actually making this storylines more interesting to me, because I don't mind a little bit of a soap opera, and I have to say that the art's growing on me. It's got its own sort of subtle sexiness to it. It's clear and crisp. I like it. The characterization is really good. I do think Kara is a little bit more emotional than I would have maybe thought she would be. I don't see Supergirl. I mean, Supergirl's been through quite a bit in her young life that I find it hard to believe she'd cry over a betrayal of Lena. But then that's the whole point of this. It is sort of a young adult. And it's sort of growing on me. It's definitely got a particular audience that I think would just eat this stuff up. And by the way, I just want to give a shout out to there's a variant cover with a rock and roll punk rock cover. There's a punk rock theme to some of the covers this month. Check it out. I think it looks pretty good. And
I didn't look that up, but just based on it looks like Marguerite Sauvage.
It does, yeah. It does, yeah.
I bet that's who it is. Let me look it up right now.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this, Rocky, because, we're talking about Supergirl. Yeah, Marguerite Sauvage. We're talking about Supergirl, angsty, and you mentioned how emotional. How old, like before this series started, how old would you have said, if somebody asked, hey, how old do you think Supergirl's supposed to be in the pages of DC Comics in current continuity?
Well,
how old
I would have said, well, I would have been thinking, because I have Tom King's Woman of Tomorrow, which I know is sort of, some people think, is it really in continuity? I know the movie's coming out, et cetera, et cetera. But even the Supergirl and Joshua Williamson Superman run, the House of Brainiac story arc, whatever, I would have thought 21, 22 years of age. That's just, and that's just visually, artistically, that's what I thought she was older. I didn't think of her as being like a 14, 15-year-old, like we're sort of been getting in the pages here as Supergirl. That's what I thought. I thought at least an adult. She was at least 18. That's what I thought. And I realize it's wonky, but,
That's interesting. So in my mind, I would have said 23, 24.
Yeah, you could, yeah.
The impression that I got.
Sure.
But here I feel like she's about 17.
Yeah.
So there's still a gap. She does still feel like she's de-aged a little bit.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're kind of the same. Maybe our ages, skew a little bit differently, but we're about the same in terms of the gap. So yeah, that's interesting. And you mentioned it's funny you mentioned Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. I saw an article today that Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow #1 is now going for $100 raw. That's
crazy. I got 3 of them, man. I'm good.
I think I do. I think I have 2 of maybe 3 or 4, but two of the main cover and then like 2 variants.
Yeah,
or something
of the Gary Frank variant. Yeah, the Gary Frank variant still went for like $40 too, I think.
Yeah, 40 or 50. Yeah, so crazy. Anyway, let's move on. Up next, we have Batman and Robin issue 29. I think this is the penultimate issue. Phillip Kennedy Johnson, writer. Fico Ocio on art. Marcelo Mayalo on colors. Steve Wands on letters. Quiet Man Part 5. In your top 5, in my top 5. Give us your thoughts.
It's just coming up here. This is continues to be just a fantastic run. This was easily in my top 3. And, PKJ does just a great job. We've had over in the pages of his particular interpretation of the ventriloquist, and is really, it's just been, I think it's inspired. It's been fantastic. Dan Waters' interpretation of ventriloquist over in Batman Dark Patterns is made one of my top, I think it was in my top 20 of best series of 2025. And this is, I forget, what is this, part 5 or part 4 of The Quiet Man?
Yeah, part 5.
Part 5. And, the ventriloquist, this is all, here we thought the Quiet Man was, the Quiet Man is somebody who's looking to avenge the death of his son. He's trying to, he first he was going after Penguin and Two-Face because he understood that they knew who killed his son. Way back at some time in the past, before the events that led Quiet Man being put into prison, was that Quiet Man did a job. He found some silver in a mine, and he went and he made a deal with the Falcone family. That deal went awry because ventriloquist screwed everything up. Tried to steal the silver, and his son was with him and driving the delivery truck, and his son ended up getting killed. He ended up in prison. Many years later, the Quiet Man essentially manages to escape prison when he finds out he can get his revenge. He finds out the ventriloquist was behind it. But we discover in this issue just how much the ventriloquist really is behind everything. We thought that this Blair, the psychologist that we thought was successfully managed to sever the Whisker's bond to the Scarface puppet. We thought that she had successfully severed that as a good mark on your bat as a psychologist. But it ends up that Blair was killed, and Blair herself was in Wesker's mind, and he's imagining her walking corpse as she's sort of like the ghost-like puppet of Wesker in his crazy mind, and meanwhile he goes and this is all in fact being masterminded by Scarface himself, and so he has Blair, this ghost-like apparition within his mind. Blair take him to the evidence room where he obtains the Scarface puppet, and as Scarface is masterminding. He's going to flip the script as Batman describes it, and he's going to take over. He's going to take over the mob from the Penguin and Two-Face, and because it's all part of Scarface's plan. And I just love the artwork here is fantastic. Through brutality of which Scarface gets his revenge. The lead up, the art, what's so masterful about this is when we see Scarface. I mean, Scarface is literally an inanimated puppet. It's Wesker that gives him life, and yet I believe that this Scarface is a real character. I believe he's real, and in effect, in effect, he is real since he's a product of Wesker's insane mind. But the fact it works so well. Philip Kennedy Johnson has done such a good job weaving this tale that he has made Scarface, this piece of wood puppet, feel like a legitimate threat. But it's really Wesker that's the threat. But yet Wesker himself seems so kind of so pathetic and weak, and he feels almost like Wesker himself is a victim. He can't help himself. Scarface manipulated him to kill Blair and all this other jazz. And it's just so well done. And then add to that, you got the great father and son work between Batman and Damian. Batman confronting Damian telling Batman that, you're filled with anger. You're angry at the Quiet Man, but you've got far more in common with the Quiet Man than you believe. Damian sees that, but Batman is in denial about it, that Batman and the Quiet Man have far more in common than they believe. But the Quiet Man is Batman without all the gadgets, without the upbringing, without the billions of dollars. Batman, but for all that $1 billion worth of money, or without an Alfred, he could have ended up like Quiet Man, desperate and ultimately forced to do what Quiet Man has to do. And Batman could have ended up being like Quiet Man, using lethal force. And Damian just sort of like points this out to Batman. And Batman, to his credit, has through the course of PKJ's character building during this run, Batman has reached a point where he can have these discussions with his son and respect Damian and actually listen to him, as opposed to giving him the grim and gritty treatment and the silent treatment and just bark orders around. So you really see the development of the character of Batman and his relationship with Damian, and it just works really, really well. And the flashbacks of the Quiet Man's relationship with his own son reinforce the tragedy of the Quiet Man having lost his son. Quiet Man being in prison, about to be potentially killed by the Penguin's minions, who are the guards who are bought off by Penguin. So many moving parts here, but it flows well. It's well paced. This has just been a fantastic series, just easily in my top 3 this week. So, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, when Phillip was on recently for 12 Days of the Comic Source, and we talked about this series, and he talked about the idea. He loved the idea of the question: is Scarface real? Is Scarface an entity in and of himself, separate from Wesker? If not, then Wesker's has the most fucked up mind in the entire DC universe outside of the Joker, maybe. I mean, this guy does sadistic stuff. And like, how broken is he in that he comes across as this weak, ineffectual. It's like he's the puppet, and Scarface is the intelligent one, the smart one, what have you. So that idea is fascinating. The idea of Scarface as a separate entity, a separate sentient being, and what Dan Waters did in the pages of Batman Dark Patterns kind of reinforced that with the whole idea of Scarface taking over the whole building. The building was the puppet and what have you. So that's really interesting and a fun thing to think about. So I love the way that Phillip Kennedy Johnson is bringing that to the forefront here. The art, you're right, it's fantastic. It's very visceral, very gritty, which is something that I don't recall seeing to this level in Fico Ocio's art before, when we've seen him do Mr. Miracle and some other things. So I thought that was really fantastic. And my favorite part of this last arc of Batman and Robin from Phillip Kennedy Johnson, in case you didn't listen to the episode or you're not aware, PKJ did sign an exclusive with Marvel, so he's finishing up his work at DC, both on this and Adventures of Superman Book of L. Then he'll be over there at Marvel doing exclusive stuff for a while. Not to say he won't come back to DC at some point in the future, who knows. But for now, he's going to be done. And it's not like anybody's taken over the Batman and Robin book. I think DC took advantage of PKJ leaving to say, well, we need room in the line for all the next level books anyway. So it's a good time to have this come to an end, and we won't bring somebody else on. But I'm going to be sad to see PKJ go, because I think he's been killing it on this book. You mentioned the relationship stuff between Damien and Bruce, which we get here when he pulls the car over, and I don't even be distracted by driving. As a father, that means a lot to a child, to say, I'm giving you my 100% undivided attention. And that's something that we haven't seen Batman do in the past. And it's things like that really sell the relationship. And it started in the hands of Joshua Williamson. You got to give Josh credit as well, because we loved it when he was doing it. And PKJ has taken it to the next level, and that's been fantastic. But my favorite thing, as good as that is, and as fantastic as like the action and the overall plot, my favorite thing from this last arc is the Quiet Man himself. PKJ has created such a great character. And there was a little bit of foreshadowing, a little bit of foreboding when he was on the show, and he talked about this. What if Batman was just, a regular guy? And that's what Damien, that's his opinion as well. And he says it. He takes what Phillip was hinting at in that interview, and he fleshes it out. What if, the same type of situation, wanting revenge, wanting to be sure nobody goes through the same pain that you went through, but you don't have the knowledge or the ability or the monetary means to go out and train. You just end up being a guy with a gun, and he's not so different. The Quiet Man is not so different from you, Bruce, dad, father, whatever you want to say. And that's really interesting, taking this idea of the Quiet Man as this character who, I wouldn't necessarily say he's a villain. Did he do bad stuff? Yes. But he's just trying to provide for his son. Was he breaking the law? I mean, technically, yeah. He was driving the truck, but he wasn't killing anybody at that point. He wasn't violent. He wasn't really hurting anybody. He was just driving the truck and doing the deliveries. Somebody's got to do it. He just wanted to provide for his son. But then when things go south, and I want to specifically point this out, he went to prison and he served his time, and he didn't necessarily have to do that, right? Because he had all the training, he had all the knowledge. And it's interesting, and it really emphasizes it here in this issue, where he's in Blackgate behind bars and choosing to be there in a way, right? Because and that's where we learn so much about who he is and where he came from. He sort of gives his origin story to Batman and what have you. And he's content to be there, just like he was content to serve his time. But once he finds out where Wesker's going to be, he escapes relatively easily. He has that ability, just like Batman would. he's put in that situation, he's sort of content to sit there. But once he knows where kind of the end game is going to happen, and he has the chance to take revenge for his son, yeah, now I'm going to escape. So that was really interesting to me. I really loved that.
Well, he was in a cage of his own making, in a sense.
Yeah, exactly. Just waiting for his next move. So he's my favorite thing about this last arc, because I think that he's a character that has so much potential, and so I hope we see more of him. Not dissimilar from the Help that we had in the Batman Killing Time series, but we haven't really seen him show up. But hopefully some of these newer characters, the Help and Quiet Man, they can take their place in the Rogues Gallery, because I think they're deserving. And for as fantastic as Batman's Rogue Gallery is, I do feel like we see the same characters over and over and over. Like we haven't seen really seen Black Mask or other than Absolute, but that's a different version, or Maxi Zeus. We haven't seen him in a while either. And it's like, hey, instead of telling another Joker story, use the Quiet Man, use the Help. Let's get a little bit more use out of the villains here. I mean, we see Two-Face plenty. I say Two-Face, obviously Joker's number one, the one we see the most. And then I feel like Two-Face is probably second. And then probably Penguin. I'd say those are the top three. And it's interesting because you would consider Poison Ivy and Catwoman members of the Rogues as well, and we see them arguably more than we see Two-Face or Penguin, but they've sort of been shifted into anti-heroes, if not straight up heroes. I think Catwoman is these days. So it's not really the same. They're not really going up against Batman or what have you. But yeah, say all that to say, I really love the Quiet Man. I think he's a fantastic character. All right, so up next, DCKO3, written by Scott Snyder and Joshua Williamson, Javi Fernandez and Zermanico on art, Alejandro Sanchez on colors, Hassan Otsman Elhau handles the letters. Just so everybody is aware, as we start this tournament, we're down to the final 8, Elite 8, as it were. We've got Superman, who defeated Captain Atom. We've got Aquaman, who defeated Hawkman. We've got Wonder Woman, who defeated Lobo in the last round. Cyborg, who defeated Swamp Thing. Zatanna, who defeated Harley Quinn. Guy Gardner, who defeated Jay Garrick. Lex Luthor, who defeated the Demon. And then Joker, who defeated Jason Todd, Red Hood. Not really, but that's what they said happened. So anyway, those are the 8 that are battling in this round. So I'm curious your thoughts on it, Rocky. So I'm going to make you go first. Give us your thoughts.
Yeah, there's a lot to. This is probably I've got. I had more fun this issue than in the previous 2 issues. I've had more fun in this issue. I've had to change the way that I view the Heart of Apocalypse. The Heart of Apocalypse, he's been a little bit wonky with the rules that he's been applying. I consider the Heart of Apocalypse. I can enjoy this story more in hindsight when I reflect on the past stories and the battles. When I think of the Heart of Apocalypse, more like the embodiment of chaos and disorder, as opposed to really following his or her own rules. Because and in that respect, I can have more fun when I do that. Here, we've got a lot of people that have been eliminated already in different ways, in a bunch of crazy ways, from playing chess to racing to coming up with different iterations of themselves that haven't really been. Like I said, I've been constructively critical, but at the same time, I've had fun. I talk about it. I enjoy talking about it. I remember the issues. And I've been enjoying the covers as well. So I've really been, DC has succeeded in pulling me into this series, and warts and all. And that's really what this is all about. I don't expect to enjoy every aspect of every event I ever read, but the fact that I'm enjoying this, even the things that I rant about is a compliment to DC. And this issue I thought was a little bit more creative than in past issues, because the part of Apocalypse says to Wonder Woman, Zatanna, Aquaman, Guy Gardner, the Joker, Cyborg, and Lex Luthor, and Aquaman. You can pick your own. You got to team up now. You can pick a partner, but it's got to be a partner that has already fallen, that's already been eliminated from the tournament. And I kind of like that. And I thought the team ups here were decent. It ends up that Guy Gardner and Hal picked Hal Jordan as his partner. They battled Superman and Shazam. Lex Luthor chose Supergirl, of all people, to battle Aquaman, who chose Hawkman, the person he just defeated, to help him out. Wonder Woman chose Big Barda. Which I thought was awesome. Personally, I wanted Wonder Woman to fight Big Barda, but if they're going to be, beggars can't be choosers. Wonder Woman and Big Barda battling Cyborg and Connor Hawke, of all people. Interesting team up. Zatanna chooses John Constantine, and they fight the Joker and a mysterious character who's revealed in the story. And I actually thought that these individual battles, I'm not even going to. I'll invite you to give your comments. The battles I enjoyed the most. I really enjoyed. I personally loved Wonder Woman and Big Barda. I loved those battles. I loved how Lex Luthor used Supergirl. I thought it was very creative. I thought that Joker's mystery character was a real cop-out. I was really disappointed with that, but it was very, very predictable. Too predictable, I thought, Joker choosing... although I like Joker being Emperor Joker, that was kind of cool. But the Batman Who Laughs, not so much. But at the end of the day, I actually thought it was very creative how the people who won, the individuals who won, I thought they earned it. It made sense the way they won. I thought the art was fantastic. It actually felt like a fight. It felt that they were really going at it, which says, because I never felt the gravitas and the seriousness of the battle in some of the previous battles. Like Zatanna and Harley Quinn, I felt that they were two girls having a good talk, and then one of them died at the end. I never really felt the Wonder Woman Lobo one either, quite frankly. But in any event, I actually thought this was pretty good. What I found was an interesting choice by Scott Snyder was he had the Heart of Apocalypse is actually doing the narrating. And what I thought was particularly kind of weird, but an interesting choice, is that the Heart of Apocalypse seems to have a lot of respect for Superman. In fact, the Heart of Apocalypse even suggested that at one point it was cheering on Superman on, which I thought was really weird. I thought it was an odd choice for Scott Snyder. Is he trying to give a personality to the Heart of Apocalypse? I thought that was really weird because I never even got the sense, is the Heart of Apocalypse not supposed to be evil or bad or embracing darkness? It's just interesting. Also, I thought was rather interesting, and again, this isn't even a criticism. I just thought it was odd, interesting. Maybe I don't really quite understand where it came from. It seems to come out of nowhere. The Joker apparently has got to pick first his mystery partner because the Joker has acquired the most Omega energy out of all of them so far. How so? I kind of wish there was some way to measure that. Now, believe me, I get it. He's the Joker. Of course, I guess we're just supposed to take it on good faith that, well, of course the Joker has more Omega. Really? Oh, Superman managed to accomplish quite a hell of a lot in the first issue there when he acquired the Omega Sanction. Isn't that a lot of Omega energy? I thought, what about the others? Exactly. By what measurement are you acquiring that? Are you measuring that? Again, not a big deal, but it goes to show how, just like the rules are a little bit wonky, the measurement of the Omega, it would have been more fun maybe to have I know it's kind of crazy, but even like a measurement of who's got more Omega energy than I don't know. If you're going to have fun with this, you might as well go full crazy. But anyways, I say this with a smile on my face because I enjoyed this. And I don't need to go into the details of the various methods and the way that Lex Luthor fought and why he chose Supergirl, how he was using her. Because you're thinking, why would Supergirl help Lex Luthor? That's a very good question. She doesn't want to. So then how does Lex Luthor end up doing so well? You got, I'll let people read this and have fun and just experiencing that. I even the use of Emperor Joker was inspired. I loved how Wonder Woman used and Big Barda teamed up, the way they did battles and the way they ultimately did so well against Cyborg and Connor Hawke. I loved the reasoning as to why Cyborg chose Connor Hawke knowing he was battling Big Barda and Wonder Woman. Why would you choose Connor Hawke, somebody who doesn't have powers? That's explained as well. I even like the explanation as to why Superman managed to do so well, and why did Superman choose Shazam? And I guessed right, by the way. I thought that was kind of obvious. I don't know if anybody will agree with me. Why did Superman choose Shazam? Well, that's revealed as well, because Shazam has a particular ability that Superman uses to great effect, and I thought it worked really, really well, and I had a lot of fun with this. If I'm intentionally not going to, I made the mistake, I think, early on of maybe nitpicking too much on the incidentals, because the reality is this is just a lot of fun. And that's what I think people are going to really enjoy this third issue. I think most people my prediction, and maybe you're going to make a liar out of me, but I think this was the most enjoyable issue so far, but maybe you didn't feel the same way. I thought the art was fantastic, and boy, the cliffhanger at the end in terms of what's going to come up next. It's like, I really want to see it. I can't wait to read the next issue, because it looks like the absolute characters might be making an appearance, and boy, oh boy, that's going to be epic. Even though it's not really the absolute characters, it's the Heart of Apocalypse's interpretation of the absolute trinity coming into play. So I'm I really enjoyed this. This was easily in my top 3 this week. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, it's in my top 3 also. And I think you're 100% right when it comes to who has got the most Omega energy. Well, it's the Joker because they want it to be. Like, just like the rules are arbitrary. I mean, the Heart of Apocalypse is doing what the Heart of Apocalypse wants to do.
Yeah,
It wants chaos. So, of course, it's going to give the Joker the first pick. But I do want to be clear. Although it appears to be the Batman who laughs that he chooses, it's actually Mxyzptlk that he chooses, who manifests himself as the Joker who laughs initially. And then
I wasn't clear on that. I wasn't. I mean, it could have been both for all I know, because there's different iterations. So
no, he says Joker even says, he's like, you think it's the Batman who laughs, but actually, and then he transforms and shows himself, and Mxyzptlk is like, okay, release me now, and the Joker says Mxyzptlk's name backwards to release him from being the partner or what have you. So yeah, I mean, I agree with you in terms of this being the best issue of the event so far in terms of the core series, the Spine series, because for the reasons you stated, it is just a heck of a lot of fun. Yes, we could nitpick, but at the end of the day, it's not so different than the Heart of Apocalypse, right? Like, why does a certain person get to cheat and a certain person doesn't, or why does the Joker get to choose first and why does the Joker have the most Omega energy? Well, because the Heart of Apocalypse is calling the shots. And in terms of what happens in this series and why certain heroes triumph over others, certain characters triumph over others, because that's the way Scott Snyder wants it. That's basically how it's all decided. When you look at our bracket,
what did you think, though? What did you think of the way that he had the ones that won? I appreciated his reasoning. I actually liked the choreography of the fights. I actually enjoyed the fight sequence, and I thought he did his homework on these characters, and so that's why I enjoyed this battle more than all the battles so far in this issue. What are your thoughts on the battles themselves?
3 out of the 4, I bought it. 3 out of the 4, I was like, okay, yeah, I buy it. Especially the Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman having Barda, punch her or whatever and doing the shockwave, like that made complete sense.
Yeah.
The one thing that, and I don't want to say it's bothered me per se, because we're getting an in-story explanation, but the thing that keeps jumping out at me and it's sort of necessary if this is a Superman story, as I've said all along. If Superman's going to be the one that wins, as I've predicted all along, um, based on the information that we have been given about, hey, you have to be ruthless and you have to have Omega energy or what have you. Superman's the decisions that he's making, his emotions, his motivation, doesn't feel 100% authentic to who Superman is as a character, right? Like in this issue, we're told that he basically has a couple of visions where he sees what the world would be like if he were to win or what have you, and it creates this desire in him to save everybody, and he's 100% on board, and that's giving him the agency to maybe act a little out of character, or I won't even say act out of character, but it's giving him the agency to be a little more assertive and not take that kind of wait and see approach and try to make sure to do the least amount of harm while saving the day, which is kind of his MO usually. And here he's a little more forceful, a little more assertive, a little more, hey, I'm going to take charge, which is a little bit more of a Batman personality trait. And maybe, that might play into why they chose not to have Batman in this event, have Batman, taken off the playing field so early on. So, but again, I'm just not used to Superman acting that way. So I won't say it's out of character, but it's a different approach to Superman, which I find interesting. But again, necessary for the story if he's going to be the one that wins it all. So that's interesting. And again, I expected him to win, and Luthor cheated. I mean, let's face it. If Superman is the most powerful character in the DCU, it stands to reason the argument could be made that Supergirl is the second most powerful because she's got the same powers as him, right? Mm. And what Luthor does in picking Supergirl as his partner, and then the way he sort of powers her up, it makes a lot of sense. That being said, I don't. That's the fight that I don't buy. I just don't buy it. Aquaman is way too powerful for just Supergirl to just slam him into the ground and he's defeated. No.
Yeah, he didn't. Now, Aquaman didn't really use his power of the blue all that much. Although the power of the blue, I'm not really sure exactly what that is. But Luthor needs water. Supergirl needs water. I mean, I don't know. Yeah. I'm trying to think how else you could have choreographed that or dealt with that. But yeah. But it is interesting, and she's been a Red Lantern before. Supergirl has learned Supergirl's learned to control her rage by being a Red Lantern, and even through Rogol Zaar's axe during Brian Bendis' run, which it was attracted toward Kara's anger, which was a plot point even in Bendis' run of Supergirl, or rather it was a plot point in Superman and used by Orlando, the writer of Supergirl. Anyway, I digress. I think that Supergirl probably could overcome some of that, but he also mentioned that he poisoned her as well with spliced with kryptonite with silver and heightened delusions. So he really drove Supergirl.
Yeah, but even so, I mean, we just saw Aquaman take a punch from Superman like it was nothing. So I just don't buy that she slams Aquaman into the ground and Aquaman's knocked out and defeated. I just don't. Yeah. That's the one that I just didn't buy. Just like, okay, whatever. Yeah. And certainly more so, well, maybe the Joker fight as well, but certainly more so than, I mean, Wonder Woman, it feels like earned her victory. Superman earned his victory, the most out of anybody. Yeah. Wonder Woman, you could argue because it's Barda doing the punch, whatever. Joker doesn't earn his at all. Mixius Pitalik, and basically turning Constantine and Zatanna against themselves in a way. Mm. So I bought that. It's magic, so whatever, you can do whatever you want. And it's sort of the only way you can get somebody who's as physically weak as the Joker into the Final Four, which, I mean, again, we all know how I feel about the Joker, but it's Scott Snyder and Scott loves the Joker, so of course the Joker ends up in the Final Four. But it just, to me, it weakens it. It really does. Like, these should be powerful characters. Joker has no business being there. But whatever, it's fine. I don't think the Joker makes it past the next round. But again, Luthor winning, again, he cheated. It's Supergirl's win, but whatever. I think Aquaman should have won that fight. And I still would have loved to see Aquaman take the whole thing. but you buy it,
Yeah.
so whatever. Wonder Woman, I expected her to win. Superman, I expected uh, him to win, and the Joker, it is what it is. So yeah, for the most part, I'm buying it. But what I'm not sure about, I expect it to be Luthor and Superman in the finals, um, and based on how much sort of perspective we've gotten a ton of this story from the perspective of Superman. We've got a ton of this story from the perspective of Luthor. I expect them to be the final two. But if you look at the brackets, the way the brackets were laid out, we would have Superman and Lex Luthor facing off right now, and we'd have Wonder Woman and Joker facing off right now if they're head to head. Now, what might be
Yeah.
happening is similar to what happened in, was it the second round where it was everybody go and get it, or was it the first round, or everybody got, yeah, it was the first round. It wasn't head to head like we thought it was going to be. It was, hey, go find this artifact, and the 16 people that get the artifacts get to move on. So we have the tease that you mentioned at the end of this issue with the absolute characters showing up. So it could be a situation where we're not getting Superman versus Lex and Wonder Woman versus Luthor. It might be that each of these four is going to have to go up against absolute characters or something, or maybe it's
Yeah.
a free for all, and the last two people standing, because there's got to be something that switches it up so that we end up with Superman versus Lex, um, which is what I predicted for the finals. I have two out of the four finalists correct, and Rocky has two out of the four finalists correct, and our buddy Steve has three out of the four finalists correct. But
It's
Steve's
fair.
been leading the whole time. I've been like one pick behind him each time. Um, but based on, I'll go do points after, and basically correct picks in later rounds are worth more than correct picks in early rounds. So
Mm.
you know, it's not a foregone conclusion that Steve's going to win. I do probably think that based on the very few amount of picks that Rocky's gotten right, unfortunately, I don't think you're in it.
Yeah. No.
But I haven't figured out the math on it yet. Anyway, but I do agree with you. I think this is the most fun issue so far of this, and I don't know. Maybe I've just become such an Aquaman stan that I just wanted him to win so badly that that's what the one. But and if Scott had done it a different way, maybe he could have done the same thing that he did. And I'm playing a little bit of script doctor here, but done the same thing he did and let Supergirl defeat um, Hawkman, but then have Luthor figure out a way to um, sever the connection that Arthur has with the Blue
Mm.
right now, and he just would have passed out because of that. I would have liked that more, because I just feel like the connection to the Blue, how ubiquitous water is, how it's such a symbolic thing. Symbolizes life, and think about the destructive power of a flood or a tidal wave or whatever. Aquaman's quickly becoming the most powerful character in the DC universe. So for him to be taken out with this relative ease, I'm not buying it. I'm
Yeah.
not buying it. If Jeremy Adams had written this issue, that never would have happened.
No.
All
No.
right, well, let's move. Yeah, let's move on to the last book we're going to talk about in detail. It's Seek and Destroy, which is Green Lantern Corps issue number 12 from writer Morgan Hampton. Art by Fernando Passarin, Will Conrad, Auclair Albert, and Jason Paz. Colors by Arif Prianto and Ian Herring, and then letters by Dave Sharp. Give us your thoughts on this one, Rocky.
This was this actually did make my top three. I just waiting for the images to come up here, but even if they don't, I they Larfreeze really makes an appearance here, because basically what's happening on Oa is that there's Oa is, of course, a planet, and at different parts of the planet, we got different corps. We got the Red Lantern Corps, the Green Lantern Corps, Sinestro Corps. We got the Indigo Corps. And they take up different portions of the planet of Oa. And so, but meanwhile, they have to learn to get along with each other. And while at the same time that's going on, we got this we got this lead, we got this character last issue. Fatality was basically recruited by John Stewart, who said, look, if you make amends to the people, Fatality, that you've killed, I'll reunite you to your planet that I resurrected in the dark sector. So Fatality is she's this Enquar. What's the name of this blue blob character?
Equinar?
Equinar, right. Equinar is trying to convince Fatality, look, he takes her to his what's left of his planet, and he sort of tries to rejuvenate his planet, and by giving it an ocean and basically reviving the planet and creating multiple organics of himself. But he's kind of a dictator. He doesn't want to give he sort of recreates his people, but he's still like a dictator. He doesn't want to give them free will yet because he wants to get revenge on the Green Lantern Corps by moving the planet and by attacking Oa. And so this new planet, this Equinar's planet, he's moving toward Oa to destroy Oa. Meanwhile, on Oa itself, we got Larfreeze, we got all the Green Lanterns, we got all the various lanterns trying to work together, and they have to work together now because they basically have to battle Larfreeze, who Larfreeze, of course, is selfish, and it's mine. He's the Orange Core, basically, and he wants everything for himself, and he basically wants to destroy all the other. He wants to destroy all the other lanterns, and he wants to control everything. And so they have to keep him under control. So while that chaos is ensuing, Fatality with Equinar are moving to attack Oa just at the worst possible time when Oa is the most vulnerable. And it's still an open question whether Fatality is she going to betray John Stewart? Is she going to help Equinar? We don't know yet. That's still a big question mark at the end of this. I have faith in Fatality. Maybe she'll turn around, but you never know. Maybe not. But it's pretty cool here. I love the visuals here are fantastic. It looks like who's the artist?
There's multiple artists.
Oh, okay, because there's
Fernando Passarin and. He works in pencil for the most part. So, when we talk about, okay, there's multiple artists on here. You've got Passarin. Yeah, you've got Passarin doing pencils. And the guy that he works with most often is Eau Claire Albert in terms of inks.
Okay.
But also Jason Paz as well. But then Will Conrad is listed as an artist, and he
right.
works, less traditionally. So
yeah.
It's hard to think about the breakdown here. It could be that there's pages that are by Passarin, Albert, and Paz, and then pages that are by Will Conrad.
Yeah, I have to say, I think they're generally consistent. They're really cool. I love the scene where Larfreeze he's almost like a giant Godzilla. Yeah. He's enlarging himself, and he's like a Godzilla. He's like a monster destroying Oa, destroying the core, and it looks really good. It looks really epic. And even Sinestro makes the comment that, oh my God, I never thought that Larfreeze had the brain capacity essentially to come up with a plan like this and actually see it through. So this is a legitimate threat to the sanctity of the newly formed Oa. Meanwhile, of course, they got Equinar with Fatality on their way to attack them. So I thought this was really good. Morgan Hampton's done a really good job here of building up suspense and just pulling everybody in. And I'm really looking forward to the next issue. And well, there's still some question marks about the Indigo Tribe and whether or not they're going to be able to find their lantern, because they're still looking for their lantern and they're meditating trying to find it. And so what hasn't happened yet, all of the various lantern members of the different corps have to learn to work together. They haven't been able to do that yet. That's why Larfreeze has been so successful at picking them off kind of one by one, because they're not particularly good at working together yet, because really a lot of them, they don't want to work together. So they're sort of reluctant allies, but they better get their act together quick because Larfreeze is on the prowl here, and they don't know what's coming with Equinar coming to battle Oa. So it was good. This easily made my top 3. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it was fantastic. And just a little more comment on on the artists. Yeah, even though there are multiple artists here, I thought they did a fantastic job because it's not obvious at all. The art
Yeah,
is really consistent. But
yeah,
I mean, again, Will Conrad, you know, he's works digitally as far as I know. Um, and so his stuff is usually, you get him on a book and then his stuff gets colored and you don't necessarily have a dedicated inker. Jason Paz and Eau Claire Aubert are inkers. So maybe it was Passerin that fell behind and, he's working traditionally. And so they had to have two inkers to turn his page around so quickly. And then had to have Conrad come in and fill out. I don't know. And I'm not calling out Passerin at all. I love Fernando Passerin. I think his work is super detailed. I love the fact that he works traditionally still, really fine lines. But in this book has so many characters and so much action, right? And I want to give all the props and all the shout out to Morgan Hampton for keeping the feel and tone of this book just the same as when Jeremy Adams was on it.
yeah,
We used to say constantly when Jeremy was co-writing about how this book was paced within an inch of its life, how they're stuffing so many characters and so much story in 20 pages. They get more in an issue of Green Lantern Corps than you get in like 5 or 6 issues of like Walking Dead or something like that.
yeah,
Um, and now that Morgan is flying solo, it has not skipped a beat. Like there are multiple plot threads here, right? Like we have the whole idea of the different Lantern Corps trying to work together. Um, Clearly, Larfleeze has other ideas, but you have that thread going on, along with the thread of the Indigo Lanterns searching for their psychic entity, which you would assume that their psychic entity is going to be the same place that the others are. So you have that whole mystery still going on. You have the Equinar and Fatality stuff going on, which I'll get. There's things that ties into that I'll talk about in just a minute. Um, and then you have at the end this reveal that there's some giant planet heading toward Oa, and it's the battle for Oa. Is next issue? Is it the battle for Oa in terms of Larfleeze is trying to take over Oa and rule it, or is it this planet or whatever the heck it is that Aya finds that's coming? Like there's so much here, and it's all fun and it's all interesting
yeah,
with gorgeous art, super fast paced, and yet Morgan gets the voices right as well. It's really easy and basically look at any book Brian Michael Bendis has ever written. We've talked about this in the past, right? Where just about every character has to say something in every panel, but that's not the only problem. Everybody has the same vocabulary and everybody has the same voice. You could basically take those word balloons and switch them around. It doesn't matter who's saying what. That's not the case here with Morgan. When you look at what characters are saying, the syntax, the vocabulary they're using, it's Guy Gardner saying things that only Guy Gardner would say in a way that only Guy Gardner would say them. And the same thing with Kilowog, and the same thing with John Stewart. And we still
yeah,
have the whole John Stewart. This is an sort of
yeah,
an alternate John Stewart, a backup John Stewart,
yeah,
and what's going on with Katma because she's affected by what Larfleeze has done. She's got the whole greed and avarice and selfishness going on, and that's still to be dealt with. So, like, despite this huge cast of characters, despite all this story going on, Morgan managed to make every moment matter and every page matter. And like for somebody who's relatively at the beginning of his comic book career, I am absolutely blown away by what a fantastic job he's done in this issue. Just incredible, incredible work. Now, let me talk about sort of my favorite part of it, which is tough to do because it's all so good. Partly because Green Lantern and the whole Green Lantern Corps and Green Lantern corner of the DCU is some of my favorite of the entire DC universe, some of my favorite heroes. And with the multiple different Lantern Corps, and I'm a big fan of Atrocitus. Saint Walker is probably my favorite of non Green Lantern lanterns. I love Saint Walker. Um, so I love all that. But that being said, this business with Equinar and him going back to his home planet and using the genetic material, I think is the way he puts it, from all the different people that he's infected since the time he left his planet, and taking over his planet and reinvigorating and bringing his planet back to life with all these duplicates of himself and controlling water and going to be this force for evil, if you will, in the galaxy. That's not going to fly with Aquaman. It doesn't matter where the water is in the universe. It's part of the blue.
You think Jeremy Adams had a conversation with Morgan Hampton about that
Well,
character?
that's the thing. If I didn't know better, I would think Jeremy was still co-writing this.
Yeah,
Now
yeah,
we have seen hints coming up in the Aquaman book that he's going to go on some galactic quest. I gotta think that galactic quest is going to have something to do with Equinor, because there's no way that Aquaman as Avatar of the Blue is going to let this evil, egocentric, egotistical villain of Equinor, this
yeah.
murderer, out there using water to control other planets and to kill people. It's not going to fly.
Yeah, and just to build on your point, I would think that Aquaman, if he's connected to the blue in the galaxy, he should be able to sense Equinor attacking Oa. He might be able to sense it.
Yeah,
if
exactly.
He's got a connection to the blue on a universal level. Yeah.
So I'm super excited, and it might have been because, I mean, I read this before I read DCKO. But again, just Aquaman has been on my mind so much lately because of the way that Jeremy Adams has leveled him up. As soon as we got that opening scene in this issue with Equinor doing what he did, my first thought was, oh, there's no way Aquaman's going to let this go down. Hell no, you're about to get your ass beat, Equinor. And being that he's made of water, I mean, they're going to do it where it's going to be like a cool battle or whatever, and it'll be fun and exciting. But at the same time, they also could go the other way, do kind of the Indiana Jones route, right? Where the guy shows up with a sword and he's like flipping it around or whatever, and then Indy just pulls out his gun and shoots him. Aquaman could just show up and be like, oh, you're made out of water? Blink, you're done. See ya. You know what I mean? And I would be down for that. I would be down for that as well. That would be pretty cool. So I'm super excited. I'm super impressed by what Morgan is doing. But I will say, as impressed as I am by what Morgan is doing here, I'm not surprised. I've been a fan of Morgan for a while. I think I've read just about everything he's written.
Well, we really enjoyed his Doom Patrol. It was a pleasant surprise.
Right?
Wasn't he on?
Patrol. No.
Didn't he?
Doom Patrol was Dennis. You're thinking of Dennis Culver.
Culver. Oh, okay, that's right.
Yeah,
Morgan.
He did Cyborg.
Right.
Cyborg, right. And he did Sons of Star Trek over at IDW.
Right.
And then he's done a ton of work in one shots and what have you. Okay. He did that Dr. Light story in one of the was it the Absolute Power crossover, where he did the Dr. Light story.
Yeah.
And we got hit. Was that the one with the romantic hints?
Yeah, it was between Dr. Light and the Atom, right?
No, that wasn't him. That wasn't Morgan. No, that was Nathan Kamen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, who's friends with Morgan? That's why I got them confused. But anyway, Morgan. Everybody, you need to make note of that name, Morgan Hampton. He's going to be on the rise, I think. And again, co-writing with Jeremy, I'm sure he picked up some pointers. And we were the ones saying when Jeremy got on Flash, hey, pay attention to this Jeremy Adams guy. Mm-hmm. And hey, not to toot our own horn, but we were right. So when I say pay attention to that Morgan Hampton guy, you guys might want to pay attention. I mean, I can go back if I really want to toot my own horn. I can go back and be like, start naming names. And it's funny because people ask me. It happens every time I have him on. Every time Tom King comes on, I have people that reach out to me that apparently are hoping to have Tom on their show. They're like, well, how do you have Tom on whenever you want? And I'm like, well, because first time I talked to Tom, he hadn't even written a comic, and I had him on my show because I recognized talent. Mm-hmm. So, it's just it is what it is. But yeah, keep an eye on Morgan. He's going places for sure. Yeah. All right. Anyway, that does it for the books we're going to talk about in detail. Everybody, there are a few other single issues, I guess we'll say, out this week. Some reprints and what have you. So we have a facsimile edition for the New Gods, #1. And then we also, is that it? I thought we had something else.
Well, we got That's the only facsimile edition.
Yeah, yeah, and I thought there were some reprints, but I guess
Well,
those
there
must be
is.
next.
There's Batman R.I.P., Batman Brave and the Bold, Justice League America, The Nail, and a
Oh, no,
Poison
those
Ivy.
those aren't those aren't reprints. I'm talking about reprints.
Oh,
Reprints like second printings, third printings, what
oh,
have you.
oh, okay,
I
yeah,
thought we had some of those this week, but apparently I'm getting confused with
yeah,
next week. But in terms of collected editions, yes, we do have some collected editions out
okay.
this week. We have Poison Ivy Volume 6, A Death in Marshview, both hardcover and trade paperback. This is collecting issues 31 through 37 of the G. Willow Wilson run, which we continue to really enjoy. Um, and then, yeah, as Rocky mentioned, Batman R.I.P., which is the Batman event that followed Final Crisis. Um, after Batman supposedly was dead. So it collects the issues 676 through 683 um, of Batman. We've got Tony Daniel on art, Grant Morrison. I've actually never read that Batman R.I.P. People might be surprised to
Oh,
figure I couldn't read Grant Morrison's Batman. I
yeah,
tried, and I've gone back and tried since, and I still just can't. It's not for
yeah.
me.
It's all right.
Anyway, Justice League of America: The Nail is getting a complete deluxe edition hardcover, um, and what that means is it's collecting the Nail, which is an Elseworlds tale 1 through 3, and then it's collecting another Nail because basically the Nail was so successful that they went back and did it again. And if you're not familiar, the whole idea of the Nail and where it gets its name is as Superman's rocket is crashing into Earth, Ma and Pa Kent are in their truck and they run over a nail. And so somebody else gets to little baby Kal-El instead of Ma and Pa Kent. And then, the whole butterfly effect, how the world could change just because of a nail. So
Mm.
that's why it's called The Nail. And then again, it was so successful, they did another one called Another Nail. And then Batman Brave and the Bold, Myth and Mysteries, which collects issues 12 and then 15 through 19 of the anthology Batman Brave and the Bold series that came out a few years ago from DC. And then finally, what I'm super excited to pick up this week, like it just brings a smile to my face. It's so amazing. If you're watching this on, excuse me, on YouTube, Rocky has it up on the screen. There is a Death of Superman Absolute Edition coming out. And this isn't like, okay, it's not the first time or whatever, but if you're watching us, you can see that on the left, there's what looks like a regular Absolute Edition with a black slipcover. And to the right of that, there's a giant tombstone that looks exactly like the tombstone that we saw in various places during the Death of Superman way back in 1993. Well, that is the direct edition, the retailer direct edition of the absolute version of the Death of Superman. So you get a tombstone of Superman. Here lies Earth's greatest hero. Again, exactly as it appeared in the comics. And then you open it up, and it has a little bit of a different edition of that absolute with the slipcase and what have you. It comes with a ton of never before seen pages and essays and character designs and what have you. The absolute edition also comes with the direct edition also comes with um, it must be like a print of the original character design for Doomsday by Dan Jurgens that's hand signed by Dan Jurgens. So I mean, it is amazing. It looks awesome. I can't wait to get it in my hands. I already know exactly where I'm going to display it. Um, but yeah, just be able to have that tombstone. And they solicited this like I want to say almost a year ago. It was at least 6 months, maybe 8 months, maybe even longer, because you can imagine how long it takes
Yeah, there's
to.
only a few of them, right? How many are there?
Yeah. 1,993. So 1993, which is the year that the Death
Yeah,
of Superman came out.
sure.
So yeah, very very limited. And
Yeah, I'm sure it's sold out. You said it was sold out too, didn't you? Yeah.
yeah, I went. Again, I ordered my copy a long time ago, picking up my local comic shop. But then there was it was Steve actually was like, oh, he saw it and was like, oh, that's awesome. And I was like, well, let me see if there's any place that still has it available. And I went to a bunch of different websites because I Googled it, right, and there's a bunch of places selling it, but every place I went to sold out, sold out, sold out, sold out. And I even went on eBay to see if anybody was pre-selling it, and there was not any listings. So I imagine it's going to be, in high demand. Again, you can get, if you want the regular one, and the regular one, that's on the left here in the picture, that it still has all the extras. I'm not sure if it has the Jurgens character design of Doomsday hand signed. I don't think it does. I think that just comes in the deluxe edition direct retailer one. But it still has all the extra pages and what have you. So, I mean, you can research it if you're so inclined.
Yeah.
But again, it's that absolute size, that oversized 11.5 by 17.
424 pages, apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah. Quite a lot.
Yeah. Really, really fantastic. So, we always mention, so you can go pick these collected editions up if you want. Unfortunately, that one's sold out, but you probably could get the regular hardcover, if not the Tombstone Direct Market Edition. So anyway, those are the collected editions that are out this week. So, all right, you went first last week, so I'll go first with my rankings this week. Starting at number 8, I have Wonder Woman Black and Gold 2026 Special number 1. At number 7 for me is Supergirl number 9. Coming in at number 6, C.O.R.T, Children of the Round Table number 5, which I really debated between that and my number 5, going back and forth. Again, like I said in my review, if a little bit of a different art style, I probably would have bumped Action Comics, especially because I didn't care for the art in Action Comics. But anyway, Action Comics 1094 is at number 5. Coming in number 4 for me, Batman and Robin number 29. At number 3, and it was tough for me. You mentioned being able to rank them pretty easily, man. My 1, 2, and 3 were really hard. I put Aquaman number 13 at 3. Ultimately based on the fact that there wasn't much Aquaman in it. Mm-hmm. And then again, between 2 and 1, was a little bit easier. Again, because Aquaman got defeated so easily, I put DCKO at number 3 at 2. Had Aquaman won, it would have been a much tougher choice. But ultimately it ended up being pretty easy to pick Green Lantern Corps number 12 as my book of the week. Because again, wow. Morgan just killed it. He just nailed it, and I was just smiling the entire time I read it. And as soon as I finished reading it, I went and looked to see if we had the next issue of Green Lantern Corps. We don't have any books for February yet. So, yeah, it was.
That's good.
Yeah, Morgan, keep up the great work, man. Absolutely killing it.
Yeah, it's funny. I would have picked. I thought you were going to put Batman and Robin number 1 for some reason. I didn't think you'd have. For some reason, I thought you were going to go with PKJ number Batman and Robin was number 1. I didn't think it was going to be GL Core, but interesting pick. I got a different top 3 than you. I have my top. Coming in number 8, I put C.O.R.T, Children of the Round Table 5. In fairness, I never really read it. I feel bad. I probably maybe would have ranked higher, but just not my cup of tea. 7, I put Supergirl number 9. Number 6, Wonder Woman Black and Gold 2026 Special. Number 5, Action Comics 1014. Number 4, Aquaman 13. Coming in my top 3, I put Green Lantern Corps number 12 at ranking number 3 for me. Batman and Robin 29 came in at number 2 for me. And I just so enjoyed DCKO number 3. That made my number 1 slot. And I'm going to have to go with my go-to cover, which is Zatanna. She may have lost the battle, but she won my heart with this. I mean, come on. Look at that cover, man. There's a lot of gorgeous covers for DCKO number 3. I'm not going to get all of them, but boy, there's a lot of real good ones.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw a little bit of a mini rant here, but the open to order cover by Juan Ferrer for Absolute Batman 15 is already going for like $60 online.
Yeah.
Now, most of the time when I order my books, I go and look at all the covers and I pick the cover that I want. I did not see that. I don't know if it wasn't released at the time when I ordered my books, because I order my books online through DCB service 2 months ahead of time. And so a lot of times all the covers are not available. So I just have to sort of guess. I either pick the main cover that's usually on there, or I look at who the other variant artists are, and I'm like, well, I generally like Mark Brooks covers, or I generally like, Lee Bermejo covers, and I'll order that or whatever. Sometimes I have no idea, so I'll just pick it. And that's why I still go to my local comic shop every Wednesday and buy books as well that I didn't pre-order, or I'm getting variant covers or whatever. I'm still spending, probably another $50 a week on that, which is, wait, I'm trying to cut back because I'm out of space. But anyway, I digress. I missed out on that Juan Ferreira cover. And because we did our DC reviews late last week, because usually what will happen is as we're doing these reviews, I'm looking at the variant covers in case I want to call one out as being particularly awesome. And had we done our review on Monday or Tuesday and for release on Wednesday last week, like we usually do, I would have seen that one for a cover, and I would have made sure to pick it up when I went to my LCS on Wednesday morning. When I went there this last Wednesday morning, I was in a super hurry because I had to get back to work for a meeting. And so I didn't really look at the variant covers. I just went in and grabbed the two books I for sure knew that I was picking up, and I paid for them and I left. And then Thursday night or Wednesday night, was it Wednesday night? Thursday night? Anyway, whenever we did, I think it was Thursday because I had to take my daughter to the doctor on Wednesday. So we did it on Thursday. And then like first thing Friday morning when my shop opened, I went, and of course it was already sold out. And I'm like, oh, well, I'll have to pay a little more to get it online. And then I go on eBay and it's going for $60. So, it's not the end of the world, but it did bum me out. I was like, oh man, like it's open to order cover and it's going for $60 and it'll probably come down and maybe I'll get it someday, but I'm not one that is willing to pay a ton of extra money for a book just based on the cover. It kind of bothers me when a book only has value because of the cover. And you can point at things like, what is it, Batman 423 with that McFarlane cover, Detective 880 with that Joker cover by Jock, that cover is ugly as hell. I can't stand that cover, and yet I need that book for my detective run.
Yeah.
But I won't pay. I wouldn't pay more than cover price for that thing because I think it's so hideous. I think they've done a facsimile, and I'll just use that to fill in. That's good enough for me. But then two other ones that I'm missing, and you got these last year, Rocky. The two J. Scott Campbell covers from Amazing Spider-Man with the Black Cat, 606 and 607.
Yeah.
Those are, J. Scott is a super nice guy. I've had him on the show, chat with him when I'm at cons or whatever. He's a super nice guy. I like his art well enough, but I'm not like a huge fan of his. I'm not paying, $40-$50 for those just based on the cover. I'm just not. I just won't. Yeah. So I just have those as gaps. It's very interesting to me when you have an open to order, non-ratio, and people love the cover so much that they just go crazy. I get it when it's a ratio and it's a little more limited. But I'm just not willing to do it. So I say all that to say, I got to be sure, just a reminder to be sure to look at all the variants when, a couple weeks before they drop, to be sure that I don't miss out. Or when I get to the shop on Wednesday morning, actually look at all the covers that are on the wall and make sure I'm not missing anything. So anyway, mini rant over. Overall, a really solid week of books.
Yeah.
And that cover that you have there for DCKO, that's the one that I pre-ordered. The cover was available when I pre-ordered 2 months ago. Yeah. And when I was going through the variant covers over the weekend to make sure I didn't miss out on anything, I go, oh, that Zatanna cover's awesome. I got to be sure that I pick that up on Wednesday. And then I went and looked at the DCKO cover that I ordered, and it was that one. I was like, okay, yeah. I'm already set.
My retailer is upset because I did order that Superman cover that you talked about, the variant cover, and he missed it. He's scrambling for it. He's scrambling to find it, and I told him good luck.
Yeah,
but if he can get it, he wants to get it for me for cover price something. I'm like, good luck with that.
Yeah, he's not gonna find it for cover price. No chance.
I literally, and the thing is, I bug him because I ordered it with showing him the screen, and I told him, I said, buy extras. At that time, I told him, I said, yeah. And I also gave him a heads up. On all the absolutes, especially the Zatanna coming up, the Zatanna variants on Absolute Wonder Woman. I guarantee you, there's variant covers with Zatanna on it. Next issue of Absolute Wonder Woman, not just cover A, there's cover B and C. Look at them, there's Zatanna, and they're all going to sell out. I got every single one. I got doubles. All of them are coming. I guarantee you, they're going to go. They're going to end up like that Superman one. Maybe not $60 right out of the gate, but right now, Absolute, it's such an easy way to make money. Kids, if you're listening, if you want to make more money than you'll get for allowance, just buy Absolute titles and then wait a week.
Interesting. it is so interesting though. I don't know how long that's sustainable. Like
Yeah.
the fact that Absolute Batman came out at the end of 2024, right? October, I think,
Yeah.
November, issue one. Raw copies, raw copies are going well over $100.
Crazy.
9.8s are going for $400. Now, this isn't a situation where it was a low print run, right? I mean, we're talking hundreds of thousands, and I'm not even counting um, the subsequent printings. I
Yeah.
think there's been 10 printings of Absolute Batman
Yeah.
because people still want it.
It's
But
crazy.
I just don't know how long it's sustainable. Like I can't, and people are continuing to submit them to CGC as 9.8s. At some point, like I got to think that things are going to start coming down. People are going to get tired of it. They're going to move on or whatever. Like, how can it sustain? I don't know. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's great to see, the excitement or whatever. And by extension, people are like, oh, well, I can't afford an Absolute Batman #1. So I'm going to go buy Absolute Superman. I'm going to go buy Absolute Wonder Woman. I'm going to go buy Absolute Green Lantern. Those are starting to pick up residual heat. It's amazing what the Absolute line is doing. In fact, Vengeance of Bane has been a hot book originally. The first appearance and origin of Bane has been a hot book recently, all because of what Bane's appearance in the Absolute title. It's very, very interesting. Like, what a home run DC has hit with Absolute.
Yeah.
Um, and
They've been.
again, go listen to our chat, our comic talk chat from Christmas and Christmas Eve, and you'll hear why I'm not the hugest fan of it. Uh, I love the main universe, more probably, but I recognize why. And here's the thing: we speculated about Bendis coming back to DC or to Marvel. We know that's happening. Speculated that he's going to be relaunching a new Ultimate line. We haven't gotten confirmation on that yet, but the entertainment industry it's a copycat industry, and especially when it comes to comics, Marvel's going to try to do what DC did. They're going to try to emulate the success that DC's having with its Absolute line. But based on the recent track record at Marvel,
Mhm.
I just have a feeling they're going to shit the bed.
Well,
They're
plus,
going to.
I'm sorry, but Bendis is so past his prime. You couldn't have picked, honestly. You couldn't have picked. I mean, I love Bendis. He's a great advocate for comics, but the guy just doesn't have it anymore. He doesn't. He just doesn't.
Well,
But I mean, I hope I'm
maybe,
wrong. But I
maybe
doubt it.
not. But if they're going to try to copy what DC does, it's not like Bendis is going to write every single book.
He better not. But they have to hire
So
talent. I mean, who are they
yeah,
hired so far? I mean, I don't. I
is that why PKJ's over there? Is PKJ going to have
Well, PKJ is a good start. I
ultimate
mean, that's a
an
good
ultimate?
start. I
Yeah.
mean, he'll pull me over, but I mean, they need more than PKJ. He's only one guy. I mean,
But that's my whole point. Is just because you have Bendis and he launched the Ultimate line originally, and just because you try to copy what DC's had success with this, and again, I go back to thinking that one of the biggest factors in the success of the Absolute line is the fact that there's no baggage, right? And me as a new reader, it's like, okay, if I want to get in on the ground floor of DC Comics and I love Batman, yeah, it's a little expensive to go buy all those Absolute Batman books, but at the same time, like I mentioned, there's subsequent printings, so you can get them, relatively inexpensively. If you don't have to have a first print, you're paying cover price. Because it's not just like issue 1 has 10 printings, issue 2 has like 6, issue 3 has 7. So they're keeping them in print because of the demand. So
yeah,
you can go and get caught up relatively easily, and
yeah,
you don't need to have ever read a DC comic book before, and you are in on the ground floor. To me, that has been one of the biggest factors of success for the Absolute line. So Marvel, you're going to try to emulate that. I think they'll mess it up. And I don't think it has anything to do with Bendis being past his prime or not. I think it has to do with executive interference and an editorial that just is not as experienced or as capable as the editorial team over at DC. But it's for the same reason. The same reason that they don't have as many good creators is the same reason they don't have as many good editors at Marvel. Because they won't pay anyone. Marvel has become cheapskates.
mhm,
Disney is calling the shots and making their budgets and telling them what they can spend. And Disney believes, because this is the case when it comes to most Disney IP, that people are just going to show up because of the character and the quality doesn't matter. And that might be true to some extent with things like, Disney cartoons and
Yeah.
even Star Wars to some extent, and maybe even Marvel movies, although we've seen that the diminishing return on things from the MCU, whether they be movies or television shows. But where it really doesn't work more so than any other medium is comics. If the comic is not good, people don't care that it has Spider-Man in it. Comic readers don't care.
Yeah.
They're not, even somebody who's a diehard Spider-Man fan, they don't buy every single Spider-Man book. If it's not good, they'll drop it. If the Wolverine book is not good, they'll drop it. If the Deadpool book is not good, they're not going to read it. It's that simple. You can't just throw any creator, writer, or artist on a book and just put, slap Deadpool's name on it and have it sell. It doesn't work like that. You might get sales on the first issue, but they'll fall off a cliff on the second issue. So it's interesting. Comic readers, comic fans are a little more discerning than a lot of other mediums in terms of, like, we want quality. It matters. And so, it's going to be an interesting year to see DC or to see Marvel try to emulate DC, and to what degree do they fall flat on their face?
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. We'll have to see. I don't imagine I'm going to be going over to Marvel anytime soon, other than maybe to check out PKJ's Hulk. But we'll see.
I'm going to read Williamson's Iron Man. I'm curious to see
maybe
what that's going to look like.
Hey,
Iron Man.
sure. If it's good, I'll probably check out the first issue. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
he
mean,
can pull me
it's
over.
one of his favorite characters. It's a bucket list guy for him. So.
He's on a roll, yeah. So
Yeah.
we get Williamson on there, but he's not. Yeah, Williamson still. I mean, we had Snyder. I mean, I don't know. I shouldn't say that. Williamson, if he harpens could Williamson actually handle a Marvel event and make it more interesting by himself, or him and PKJ? Hey, never say never, man. The guy has surprised me. He has surprised me. He's one guy that every time if I'm disappointed with Williamson, he always comes back. He surprised me with his Superman. He surprised me with his Batman and Robin. He surprised me with his Robin series. So Williamson is, and he's got the Energon universe. He's pulled off a miracle for Image, as far as I'm concerned. He actually got me reading. Williamson actually got me reading G.I. Joe. I mean, wow.
Yeah,
Good
the
for
thing
him.
is, I don't know. It took years for Marvel to get to this point. Like, Marvel was on a downward trend for years. I think, in my mind, ever since Hickman's Secret Wars event, when they said, "Oh, we'll never reboot," and that was a reboot in a lot of ways. And ever since then, they've been, in my mind, been on a downward trend. I think that was like 2016 or 2017. So it's been a while. It took them a while to get down to this point. So I think even the most exciting event in the world from Williamson couldn't turn that around, because at the end of the day, you still don't have the talent. Like you said, they need to get people. They need to get some talented creators over there, but they also need editors with experience, and they need to pay them, and they're not going to get good editors if they're not willing to pay them. So
Mm-hmm.
in my mind, it's like a sports team that was at the top for a long time, but now all their good people are gone, and you don't just rebuild overnight. Like, you have to rebuild through the draft, and people have to get experience and that sort of thing. So yeah, it's interesting times for sure in comics. So anyway, that's going to do it for this episode, everybody. Appreciate you joining as always. Don't forget, if you're listening audio only, all the Comic Source content is available on whatever podcast platform or app you use. Just do search for the Comic Source and subscribe. But if you are listening there, you should head over to YouTube and subscribe to Rocky's channel, Comic Space Boom ! That's where you can see our smiling faces and the fantastic covers and the gorgeous art from the DC books every week. And then, as long as you're at YouTube, you should head over to the Comic Source YouTube channel as well and subscribe. That's where most of the other content comes out. You can check out the recent 12 Days of the Comic Source interviews. Haven't been putting out a ton of content lately, but it's going to be ramping up in the new year for sure. So again, that's going to do it for this episode. Appreciate you joining as always, and we'll talk to you next time.
Catch you later.